welcome. So this is going to be an interesting one where we're going to revisit something we've done a stream on, and now we're just going to chat about it at it again, this time from a slightly different direction. Hopefully this will be interesting, and probably a lot of people won't remember. Anyway, let's bring in the guests, starting off with Codex.
I am the scales of justice, conductor of the choir of death. Sing, brothers, sing, sing.
Hello.
Hello. Always a pleasure, my friend. And of course, we must not neglect our friend, the White Dragon.
I need to come up with a new one. Then I was getting a bit stale.
Fair enough. All right, so let's probably won't have anybody else but let me see if I can pull up a good image.
Why you didn't do a PowerPoint on this one?
Nope, I did not.
Loser.
Professional done. How unprofessional.
True. Ooh. This should be fair enough and enough. This should be fine. So, a while back we discussed this film as a box office bomb, which it was. It was, in fact, the second biggest loss of money that Disney has ever had. Percentage-wise, it was almost as bad as Black Cauldron. But Black Cauldron is more of a humiliation because Black Cauldron lost to the Care Bears on its second weekend.
Is that recently, or is that something a long time ago?
This is something a long, long time ago.
That was a long time ago. In a galaxy
it's,
far, far away.
I'm embarrassed to tell you guys that I think I've seen a Care Bears movie as a kid.
It's
We all did at one point, didn't we?
I've seen one, and then I saw the Nostalgia Critic reviews of the other one, of the other two. But yeah, definitely the Care Bears movie is the most, losing to that one is the most embarrassing loss that Disney has ever experienced, without a doubt. So,
What was released at this time? Was it the Avengers film at that time and a few others?
let me actually check. John Carter. Yeah, they originally thought that this would be so this was 2012. Okay, 2012 in film. Yeah, so the highest grossing films of that year were The Avengers, Skyfall, Dark Knight Rises, The Hobbit, Ice Age 4.
I haven't heard about those movies in a long time. I need to watch them again.
Yeah.
The final Twilight movie.
No! My sister is watching those right fucking now. I don't want to hear about those.
Ushering and Unappreciated. Yeah. Yes. I really do like this movie. It is a bit strange. But
I can't say anything on the plot because I have more vague memories on this particular movie. But I remember enjoying my time.
Yeah, let me...
Well, it's about it's got a person called Mario somehow descending on the mushroom planet of Mars.
Let me see. List of American films in 2012. So let's see. Control F.
And unfortunately, Mara had a very, very dark past. He lost his toadstool.
Okay, so John Carter was actually released in March. Opposite Dr. Seuss's The Lorax. 21 Jump Street. Ooh, The Hunger Games. Ouch.
Cringe.
The Hunger Games isn't bad.
Yeah, they're not.
Oh.
I just said cringe. I didn't say anything else.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And then April and June was the re-release of Titanic. So
I have a love-hate relationship with that movie. I like all the historical bits, but Jesus, that love plot, that love plot can just die in a hole.
Yeah, I did end up seeing John Carter about 3-4 times in the theater. I really enjoyed watching it, and I still do really like watching it. It's definitely a fun one for me. One kind of unfortunate thing about the film is that it kind of wrong foots you a little bit with 3 cold openings. And I think that might have turned audiences off. The marketing was also crap. It was really bad.
I think also at the time, the film plays a lot on the cliches, which this is what I've heard from people exactly. The book was actually the inspiration for the cliches, exactly, today's.
Yeah. For instance, the film, the original inspiration for John Carter, well, the movie was The Princess of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs, and if that name is familiar to anybody, that's the same guy who wrote Tarzan, which is a far more enduring character, and as opposed to John Carter is one of those characters that he's been superseded more by the characters inspired by him. Luke Skywalker is an example. Flash Gordon to a certain extent. Superman definitely was heavily inspired by John Carter, especially the leaping tall buildings in a single bound. That kind of thing was very much the inspiration. But yeah, it's definitely a movie that came out in a time where I was wasn't really the best time for it, I think.
Yeah.
So just I have a summary of the book from Wikipedia. So John Carter, a Confederate veteran of the American Civil War, goes prospecting in Arizona immediately after the war's end. Having struck a rich vein of gold, he runs foul of the Apaches. Simple enough. While attempting to evade, he was mysteriously transported to Mars. So that's something slightly different. He is called Barsoom by its inhabitants. Carter finds that he has great strength and superhuman agility in this new environment as a result of the lower gravity and lower atmospheric pressure. Sure. He falls in with a nomad tribe of green Martians.
Which is very true.
Tharks, as the plant's warlike, Ixlimbed, green-skinned inhabitants are known, thanks to his strength and martial prowess. He is able to rise to a high position in the tribe and gains the respect of the Martia, the friendship of Tarkus, one of the Thark chiefs. In this one, what's his face? The Tahadris is the chief of the Tharks. He's not the he's not the Starscream, I guess, of the Tharks as he is in the film. So,
can you refresh my memory? What do you mean by that?
What?
Starscream, like some kind of cocky asshole, likes to use it.
He's constantly betraying him. He wants to usurp him his leadership role, essentially.
Yeah.
Kind
of this. Yeah, I just use Starscream as that particular archetype. As 401. Thank you. I appreciate the congratulation. And after that, the Tharks capture Deja Thoris, member of the humanoid red Martian race. Though the way that they
can I
go for it?
Say a funny little tidbit about the number 401. It's because we brought up Titanic there for a second, because Titanic's yard number was 401.
Really?
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
And Olympics, Titanic's older sister was 400.
Yeah.
Britannic was a much higher number because the ship was completed much later. I don't remember that shipyard number. But yeah, that's a funny little tidbit.
The more you know. Either way.
Go ahead, continue. I just had like a funny little thing.
Yeah, because in terms of the films, well, the next bit of the plot is subsequently capture Deja Thoris, and they inhabited a loose network of city-states and control the desert plants canals, where most of its agriculture is concentrated. Carter rescues Deja from the Green Men in a bid to return to her people. So one kind of amusing thing about this film is that they decided, you know what, let's not have everybody be basically naked.
Yeah.
That's one kind of weird thing about because it's a serial, they kind of went with the very pulpy formula of, like it's just the treasure or bad guy to kill and a beautiful woman to save. And that's definitely the plot here. And they kind of made it odd. It's kind of it's interesting because, one, nobody wears any clothes. Even in stuff like the graphic novelization, nobody wears clothes. It's just everybody's nude, like buck naked. And the another weird thing that Mr. Rice Burroughs decided to do with this is how Martians, both green and red, alike do. Apparently, they lay eggs.
Hmm.
It's like,
Hmm.
wait,
Hmm.
what? It's
Martians are
really
weird.
weird. Yeah, it's
Martians are
really,
weird.
really. Yeah, it's freaking weird.
I mean, we just did
Yeah.
War of the Worlds the other day, and they're just brains in with tentacles.
Mm, yep. Yeah, it.
No, that's legit. No, wait, that's legit how they're described in the book.
Yeah. Yeah, they're brains with tentacles. Yeah, Mars. Yeah, Mars is strange, and so it becomes embroiled in the political affairs of both the Green and Red Martians in order to safeguard Deja Thora, eventually leading a horde of Tharks against the city of Zodanga. Enga, and the historic enemy of Helium, winning her heart. He becomes Prince of Helium. They live together for 9 years. However, a sudden breakdown of the atmosphere plant. That's actually what happens. Happens. The atmosphere plant that sustains the planet's waning air supply endangers all life on Barsoom. In a desperate attempt to save the planet's inhabitants, Carter uses a secret telepathic code to enter the factory, bringing an engineer along who can restore it. Carter then succumbs to asphyxiation, only to awaken back on Earth, left to wonder what has become of Barsoom and his beloved Deja Thoris.
So the guy saves climate change.
Yeah, a little bit,
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could translate this to screen.
No, I don't think you could.
Yeah. Because it's really freaking weird. There's also another set of problems that come with it in terms of the how exactly the story is translated, like the Talhajas and Tars Tarkas have a rivalry, and John Carter just facilitates Tars Tarkas going in and killing Talhajas, which is basically over with in a sentence after being built up for most of the book, which is fine. He's very much a man's man type, which is fine. I do prefer Deja Thoris in the movie as opposed to the book. I honestly actually do not like the book at all. I don't really respect the book. Well, I respect the book. I just don't like it.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's really dry. I'm not the biggest fan of episcopal storytelling. Or, well, epistolary. Sorry, I keep mixing up epistolary with episcopal. Episcopal. It's an unfortunate habit of mine. But yeah, it's interesting. They actually changed up a number of things. Like he gets the name Dotar Sojat from the 2 green men that he kills, not from like he says, my right arms, as Tars Tarkas puts it. He finds out a number of different things. He doesn't really. He's kind of a lot in big part the Buck Rogers type, where he's a pretty much Renaissance man, good at pretty much everything. Doesn't necessarily have that much of a personality beyond Southern Gentleman. I did want to kind of bring up an interesting comment that actually got from John Carter that Brandon Saracen brought up. So let me see, where's the part where he talks about John Carter?
Hey, George Lucas story, bad story idea. What the hell?
Basically, they come up with an idea of what if. 1 second.
I hear that.
Well, if Lucas gets you right.
Yeah, that would an ice age will happen. Sweet. I got like a giant library of N64 and pretty much all of the Pokemon games from the Game Boy all the way up to the Wii U. And it's like 54 gigs. Like, holy shit. And it has like almost every version. Japanese, American, any obscure version.
Claiming it as an I think that is a really fascinating angle that the movie screenplay about how he's the worst part of all the art he's involved in, and then he gets kicked off of his own art. Yes. So yes, that's terrible. And they just that one has, and the real one,
and she's like, a roadie / manager. We're gonna in these movies have won the Oscar dancing, because what it is they both find the success they want and marries another guy. It's a real
next door kind of thing. And I have put that in.
But I mean, I don't think
is it using the time lapse or something at the bottom?
Let me see.
The chapters.
Oh, found it. Let me see. I found it.
Let me introduce you to NordVPN.
And I don't like it at all. And I don't know if we're going to disagree on this, but I was very excited for it. I enjoyed the books, and I thought that the movie was a travesty.
I don't think it was a travesty. I enjoyed it. It's definitely not how I would have done it. I've had long conversations with Melinda Snodgrass, who wrote the first draft that they ended up not using.
Okay.
And I like her version a lot more. But yeah.
I think I see it partially as a tragedy because tragedy, both.
It's both.
It's
a tragedy.
You are no longer working in your corporate job where you have to combine words.
No,
you're
out
rusty.
Of my element now.
Yeah, that was
totally out of practice.
Definitely not Stu Bad level.
No, that was not. In fact, was a Stu Bad portmanteau of tragedy and travesty.
But man, lost my cool train of thought.
You were saying that that the movie is a travesty / tragedy.
Oh, in part because the director is somebody that I really wanted to see succeed. This is one of the Pixar guys who tried to make a leap to live action. It's Andrew Stanton. He did WALL-E, which I think is fantastic. I think
absolutely.
He is a great
It's
director.
a really good film.
And this was a passion project for him. And part of why I was so disappointed is because I had such high expectations, right? Because classic story that has never had a big budget adaptation that I enjoyed reading, mixed with the director who's legitimately done great things. And then it was just kind of meh. And it made one big mistake.
I mean, I think it made several big mistakes, but which one are you referring to?
It made John Carter boring.
Oh,
it turned him into a generic, action hero with a tragic past. And what makes the John Carter books work for me, and I'm sure they work differently for other people, is that you read these books about a barbaric society with a man in a loincloth sometimes, jumping from ship to ship, cutting the heads off of four-armed bug monsters, right? Lizard monsters, whatever. And his voice is a Southern gentleman. Like straight out of Civil War letters written home. He is so interesting and beautiful, and flowery language not matching the base sort of tone of the rest of the story is just transfixing to me. And so when they took him and said, no, he's got to be like every other action hero. He's got a dark, tragic past. He broods. He's got he's on a hero's journey, and so he's got to have, this I don't want to be on this journey, as opposed to the guy in the books who's like, oh, I'm on Mars and can jump real far. Wow, this is real fun. Can I save a princess? Hey, there's one in trouble.
There's one right there.
And then like so much fun to read that character's voice.
Yes.
That I just could not get over that. Maybe it would have flopped if they'd done that. Maybe that would have flopped too. I mean, maybe they made that change because the world and setting is very weird. So it's like, let's give everyone a protagonist who's like all the protagonists they've had before. But that was my big problem with that movie.
There are a ton of reasons that movie collapsed and failed. And we don't necessarily need to get into them right now, but I will say, dear listener,
get into them.
There's a book called John Carter and the Gods of Hollywood that charts the entire process of making the movie and what happened and why it happened and all of the things. A lot of it comes down to it was in production during the time that Disney acquired Disney and Marvel. At which point they said,
"You mean Lucas and Marvel?"
Yes, Lucas and Marvel, not Disney and Marvel. And so Disney was like, "Well, we've got this one really cool, successful adventure thing that appeals to a certain demographic. We don't need two," and killed John Carter. That's one of the many reasons. But the larger point, and the reason I bring that up, is because regardless of the quality of the John Carter movie, it was seen as derivative, even though it was the thing that inspired all the things people think it is derivative of.
I was so worried that would happen with Dune.
Yeah, and I'm glad that didn't happen.
I mean, I think part of it is the beautiful artistic direction, giving people something they haven't seen before, even if the tropes are things they have seen repeated and copied. The fact that,
So back to your bad story idea.
Yeah.
I love the idea that this guy's.
It is kind of an interesting perspective, and I do see where he's coming from. I don't fully agree with him, since maybe it's just me, but I'm kind of okay with kind of generic action movie guy.
I mean, from a writing standpoint, I don't see what's wrong with that. Seems more like a personal taste thing.
It definitely is, and he fully acknowledges that, which is actually kind of refreshing that he just acknowledges. This is a personal preference thing.
I do think one thing about that: how many people have actually read the book prior to the film? The Disney film specifically. At that time, I don't many.
It was
too many.
It was a very small number.
Books at this time had probably died out a lot when book readers in general.
Yeah, and especially for this particular book, even if we look at Edgar Rice Burroughs, the major thing that people know him for is Tarzan, because Tarzan, while a cultural phenomenon and something that has kind of been done a number of times, there's very little that's derivative of Tarzan, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The only thing I
John
can-
Carter, on the other hand, has had a lot of things derivative off of him.
The only thing I can think of is with the one that Dwayne Johnson was in, I think. Fuck, I don't remember.
The Scorpion King?
I think it was Scorpion King.
Nah, never mind. Forget about it. I always thought it maybe something might have been relevant, but nah, never mind.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Also, hi, Trip. Hi, Wolfie.
She's tripping. So watch out.
Oh, no. Tripping on wolves.
Yeah. So, in terms of the film, it actually goes into a little bit more depth with John Carter's character, and yes, it kind of just makes him a tragic badass in a lot of ways. Yeah, but not mainstream, since John Carter is the main inspiration for Superman, and everybody and their mother knows Superman.
Not everyone and their grandma knows Superman exactly. That's the thing.
That is true.
It's also a bit of a tragedy as well because I think I might have said this before. It's a byproduct of its own foundation. Essentially, it felt like a lot of people basically they said it was derivative, obviously derivative, of course, because it started all these tropes, and as culture and people just start seeing the trope and all that, they just saw this one was like, oh, it's just the same thing, just like say Superman, for example, when, like you said, John Connor was the one who started this whole thing.
It's also the usual story of guy in a distant planet takes over native civilization, and leads a war against evil civilization. It at least does it much better than Avatar, because Avatar is trash and always will be trash. Was trash, is trash, and always will be trash.
Perhaps I should visit that movie again, my own time.
Boy. Oh boy.
Maybe I
Avatar
can upset
worst.
Anomaly.
Anomaly likes Avatar?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's making like a 6-hour video on Avatar 2.
On why it's bad or why
Good, probably.
he
He has a real hard on for James Cameron, I think.
well,
to be fair, he did make Alien, sorry, but still.
yeah, he's made a lot of very good movies. A lot of them sequels. But the problem is with James Cameron, he's a little bit hit. He's kind of lost his talent. At least I've seen that he's lost pretty much most of his talent after Avatar. And people enjoy Alita Battle Angel, and it's just like, it's fine. I imagine. I don't understand why Shad seems to really enjoy that movie.
I think it's mainly because we have so many unlikable female characters these days, and Alita Battle Angel is the exception to that rule, I assume.
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate.
Yeah. Since really what we want is, since I'm just like, yeah, he wants James Cameron to just do more Alita Battle Angel, which is probably like, no, that wouldn't solve anything. That would probably not be a good choice.
Sorry, go on. No, it's fine. Go on.
I didn't have anything to say. Go for it.
No, it's just I'm just looking at Wolfie's comment. It's like it is somewhat like The Last Samurai to a little degree.
I would say I haven't seen much of the Last Samurai. I will have to
Add that The list.
Yeah. I know The Last
Ever-growing
Samurai is
list.
apparently like it's a okay film. I would be interested to compare that
What, history to history?
No, not to history. To the Confused Matthew review.
Oh, yeah,
Hey, what
that'd be
again?
interesting.
Wait, hold on, wait. Someone said Confused Matthew. What the fuck? What are you talking about? I just snapped out of a coma.
So
It's because I'm a Brit.
Confused Matthew did a review of The Last Samurai, and I'm interested to kind of, if we were to watch the film, it would be to kind of compare his review with the movie, because Confused Matthew is an idiot.
Oh, no doubt about that. That's what started my whole
never.
fucking prequel crusade in the first place. I don't need.
Yeah, because he's a complete idiot. He is not intelligent at all.
That's how you were assuming to assume intelligence. Funny.
Yeah, Last Summer is a pretty decent film. I mean, it's a better Avatar film than anything else, really. No, it generally is, to be fair. It is better than Avatar. I will stand by that statement, and you can quote me on the stream.
Alright.
Avatar, well, the thing is about Avatar is it's a completely empty and vacuous film.
Yeah, that is very true. That is very true.
Yeah. And Pokemon Hill, Silent Hill.
Yeah, it's completely devoid of any real meaning. It's pretty, but it's basically just about as bad as The Last Jedi in terms of, it is very pretty, but there is nothing in it that is worth watching.
Avatar, you're referring to?
Yep.
Have you seen the sequel?
That's not inaccurate.
Refuse to.
It's not inaccurate.
I refuse to. I'm just on principle. I refuse to watch it.
In principle, just go sail the 7 seas. There's no morality there.
Well, I'm just like, I just don't want to waste my time with something that I know is just going to be vacuous and badly written.
Yeah.
Bop.
Not even like spending money just to spend money and just to talk about it. It's just like, I'm just not interested in ever consuming this content. I don't like the first movie. I know I'm not going to like the second movie, so why should I continue? Why should I watch it?
I unfortunately watched it, unfortunately, and me and my friend, we just went to have shits and giggles about it, and we couldn't get even a single thing out of it. Like, it was just
fucking raw.
Just fucking boring. I know.
Yeah, it's boring and badly written, which is kind of the worst combination.
Yeah. Either way, though, back to the point.
In a lot of ways,
wrong person.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, John Carter is kind of a better version of Avatar, and you can kind of say that he is a very typical action movie hero. But I'm actually kind of okay with that. It works for the movie that as written, and Taylor Kitsch, he doesn't have like a ton of range, but he works for the character as he is created, which is nice. He's definitely, I think the main standout performance in the film is actually Lynn Collins as Deja Thoris.
I would say Mark Strong, really, but that's Mark Strong for you. But yeah, I would agree with that as well.
Yeah, I do like Mark Strong, and I think that his performance as Matai Shan is a really, really good villain performance, where he's this extremely like just cold guy. And I think his conversation with Jong-un is actually a really good one, because it's a bunch of different scene actors playing the same exact character, which is
basically
a really neat bit of framing.
I do think giving him that stoic loner kind of character does help him a little bit as well. It makes him more human compared to being on Mars, of course. And the last stand that he tries to do in the film is probably the best show don't tell kind of situations. Exactly.
Yeah, the whole thing with his wife is actually a really good show don't tell thing. I would definitely agree with that. It's definitely one of the things about the movie that I appreciate, is that that scene is actually a really good example of show don't tell. And he actually does Taylor Kitsch does a really good job in that scene. It's one of my favorite editing montages in a film. And they did a really good job with that.
It's kind of unfortunate.
Oh, go for it. Kind of unfortunate that what?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, absolutely. It's just unfortunate that the actor just, I think after the film, he just dropped off the face of the planet because how poorly received this film was.
I think it was the 1-2 punch of. It was kind of the
like Hayden.
Well, it was kind of the 1-2 punch of Battleship and this movie.
Yeah.
They just, whatever your opinions on Battleship, I know Trip likes Battleship, and that's totally fine. It's just that Battleship did not perform well, and it kind of killed his career.
Yeah, it's kind of like Hayden when it comes to the prequels.
Well, kind of. Well, I think that Hayden kind of had. I don't think Hayden had I think that Hayden had it slightly worse, because there's no such thing as a John Carter fandom. If there were, there would have been much more money that would have been able to be put into John Carter. In terms of the box office ending results, but unfortunately, it turned out that no, people just don't care about this character. They just aren't interested. And maybe like a few people were able to see it and enjoyed it, but not very many people did, which is kind of unfortunate, because it's not that bad. It's a decent sci-fi film.
Yeah, it's just Yeah, it's just bogged down by characters that came before him, essentially. That's the bottom line, really. Which is ironic, because he's the one who started the whole trend.
Yeah.
And since he's kind of like Tyler Preston said in the chat, he's the original isekai.
Basically, yeah. Well, the 1912s, 1910, sorry, but still.
Yeah, or one of the original isekais. I think Alice in Wonderland preceded him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably.
That.
Yeah.
And I would definitely say that this film, like, I actually watched this film more times in the theater than I watched the Avengers. I think I only watched the Avengers once. I watched this 3 times. It's an anime term for a film or story in which the protagonist is taken out of their regular world into a secondary world. Narnia is an example of an isekai. Alice in Wonderland,
Tron?
Wizard of Oz, Tron. Yes, Tron is definitely an isekai.
Well, to be fair, I should say
Probably
Flynn,
in-
probably, but yeah, it was from the whole Tron, yeah.
Yeah, Flynn. Yeah, Tron. Yeah, Tron. Both. Not Tron Uprising. Tron Uprising is just a straight up sci-fi fantasy film. What?
Basically, yeah.
Sorry, I found a catalog that whole fucking debate on the Homely server I found that I actually kept a bunch of screenshots of it.
Oh, that's funny.
Sorry, go ahead, do your thing.
Yeah, I do think that though that one of the things that this film benefits from quite a bit is I think that Lynn Collins is pretty much the best part of this movie. Her and Mark Strong.
Yeah, definitely. I do kind of like the world building of this film, though. That's one thing I'll give this film a bit more credit, because they did actually plan this out. And it generally does feel like an alien film, an alien setting exactly, compared to like most science fiction films.
Yeah, and they pretty much kept most of the world building from the book. And Edgar Rice Burroughs, he was really creative. The only things they didn't keep were the laying eggs thing, and the nudity, and the complicated bit
that was weird. Yeah, well, that's obvious reasons, of course.
But yeah, because they don't want it to be an NC-17.
No. Although, to be fair, given some of the parts of the film, like literally, John literally facing up 2 of the beasts right in the poster right here, and he just tears himself out of it. It's like, yeah, this was probably meant to be more gory than it should have been.
Yeah, I think part of it's just the blood's blue.
Yeah. Hey, to be fair, you can get away with a lot of things if you just change the color. Or, robot. It's really.
He is turning into a robot.
Oh, really?
Or you were for a second there.
I really do not. Yeah, my internet really is shite today. Yay.
Yeah. in terms of, but I do think that I really like Deja Thoris because she's such a great female character. She's, in some ways, she's a Renaissance woman. Like she is both very, very smart, technologically wise, and she's also a very capable fighter. And it kind of feels very much like she is John's equal and his partner, where they're both smart according to what they have. She's from a slightly more advanced civilization than he is, so her science know-how is quite a bit better than his. But he is definitely better at fisticuffs than she is in some ways. Though she isn't anything to sneeze at, I would definitely say.
Mm-hmm.
I think also Lynn Collins' acting in this. Like, one thing that I'm actually super impressed by is her voice. And that's kind of, I admittedly, that's kind of a weird thing to praise, but kind of I did want to kind of compare the two voices of what she actually sounds like versus. So this is what she sounds like in the film.
It's the Dangan, worn by the groom's mother, I'm told. It's a little vulgar for my taste, but my opinions are about to become irrelevant.
You can't seriously be considering this.
What other choice do I have?
Don't marry him.
So this is what her voice
this
actually
is a classic
sounds
sci-fi
like.
in space when you're dealing with names of places and people who would be normally a bad hand at Scrabble. I know that young Taylor kept a blackboard back in Austin and put all the names. I believe this is all real.
Yeah, that sort of aspect.
God damn.
The percent to the world, to the character, to the circumstances.
God damn.
That's why I say I am particularly
right there.
impressed. Yeah, like I am very, very impressed by just her voice is like not naturally like that. She probably had to put a lot of work because that is a very hefty disparity. It's very hard for somebody who's got a high pitch like that to go to that particular pitch as well as on top of an accent. That's why I'm really impressed. I'm just really impressed that she was able to do that kind of voice work for this film. Yeah, fisticuffs were about half of the movie. Too much dialogue, like "Get out of here" and "Ark." Yeah.
You will have your dialogue. You will have a count, and you will love it. Don't let me get the rings of power on you.
Yeah, Rings of Power. This film, like, honestly, like bad original shows like Rings of Power and
Wheel of Prime.
No, stop it, Blarion. Cunt.
I want these performances, these faces.
No, it's like a media club where eyebrows. The eyebrows were the true actors of that series.
Yeah, there's always I like the Lord of the Rings films, but kind of Elijah Wood and Orlando Bloom kind of act with their eyebrows.
Yeah. Well, I would say more Orlando Bloom. He's an elf. Let's be frank about that.
Yeah,
it's good tight casting though.
And it's kind of like what I was listening to a podcast where it kind of described Elijah Wood and Orlando Bloom as having no faces. And it's kind of
That's
like
not
they
inaccurate.
Yeah. You're not wrong with the text. Yeah, and yeah, Lynn Collins, like I was when I was, I think I was about 17 when this film came out. I was quite smitten with her. I was like, wow. I was very, very smitten. And that's one of the major reasons I watched it so many times in the theater. But I also really like the action, and kind of as I get older, I really like a lot of the visual storytelling that the film does. Like
Yeah.
like when he is
The Last Stand situation.
I was actually thinking in the beginning where he just puts his hand, he says, whatever you think I owe your whatever beloved cause you have, I've paid in full. And you just see him put his hand on the bar, and he just said, and that's all you really need.
Yeah.
And he just says, and that just says all you need to know, which is actually kind of refreshing.
Yeah.
That they decided to just say, you know what, let's just be subtle about it. Yeah. They did get a lot of good helium is a stupid name, should have been ammonia. The funniest thing is that's the original name of the city. So while they changed a lot, they changed a lot of stuff. And some of it, most of which I agree with them changing, because the book's ending is weird. It's really, really freaking weird. As we read, it's the plant, the air producing plant on Mars fails, and so they have to
You all right?
They have to figure. So John has to go in, and then he apparently dies, only to wake up on Earth. And it's just And then he just has to figure out a way to go back to Mars. And it's fine. I never read past the first book. It could also be that I didn't like the narrator very much. Wasn't the biggest fan of his delivery. But in a lot of ways I was just like, it's an okay book. It's not really my type of book. I much prefer something like Count of Monte Cristo to something along those lines. I would definitely say that I would prefer to watch the movie over the book. I would rather. It's one of those times where I would just say, nah, the book is much better. The movie's much more interesting than the book is, and I prefer the character of John Carter. It could be the fact that that I prefer that kind of character as opposed to the Doc Savage type characters. I'm not the biggest fan of those type of characters. It could be my exposure to Wheel of Time from a very young age has kind of made me think, nah, I don't really like this type of character very much. That's a definite possibility.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, I'm not sure. Any other thoughts that we want to talk about with this film?
It was certainly a ride, I would say.
It was a ride, yeah. Yeah, Trip bringing up a good point as well. It has a very bit similar to Total Recall in that regard. Well, I think from the book to the film, exactly.
Yeah, Total Recall, the book is apparently very interesting. I can't remember where I found it, but I found some place where it might have been lost in adaptation.
Yeah, I've seen that too, yeah.
Yeah, Tommy Noble, he's hit or miss. He's unfortunately drunk a little bit of the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
A lot of the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Yeah. His whole performative, I don't want to give A.K. Rowling any support or attention or barely even mention her name in my stuff. And did a whole thing. And it's just like, dude, that's hyper performative. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Other things. I can't think of anything else really to talk about with this film.
Not really.
Yeah. Well, alrighty. Well,
this is kind of a short stream today.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Well, basically, we're just wanted to talk about it as a classic, comparing it to the book. The book's an interesting read, to say the least. I definitely would recommend it to people who would like kind of pulpy stuff like that. It's not my taste. The sequels kind of seem like it goes down a more interesting path, but where there's let me actually read out since this movie never got a sequel, which is kind of sad because it kind of it ends on a decent enough note, but there's not really enough closure. And I also like little subtle things, like John is still drawing Deja Thoris in his notebook, and so he can preserve his memory. That's actually really sweet, and I really like that.
Yeah. A true romance.
Yep. Yeah, so the sequel is interesting. So at the end of the first book, so the book starts with his journey back to Barsoom after a 10-year separation from Deja Thoris, their unborn child, the bred Martian people of Helium, who he adopted as his own. Unfortunately, he materializes in the one place in Barsoom from which nobody is allowed to depart, the Valley Door, which is the Barsoomian afterlife. After John Carter's arrival, a boat of green Martians on the River Is are ambushed by the previously unknown plant men.
So the Triffids, then?
Yeah. The lone survivor is his friend Tars Tarkas, the Jeddak of Thark, who has begun his pilgrimage to the Valley Door to find Carter. Having saved their own lives, Carter and Tars Tarkas discover the Thurn, a white-skinned race of self-proclaimed gods who have for eons deceived the Barsoomians ever with the lie that the pilgrimage to the Valley Door is the doorway to paradise. Most rivals are killed by the beasts who dwell there, and the survivors are enslaved or eaten by the Therns.
Also, very much like Day of the Triffids.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Carter and Tars Tarkus rescue Thuvia, a slave girl, and attempt to escape, capitalizing on the confusion caused by the Black Pirates of Barsoom upon the Therns. During the attack, Tars and Thuvia hijack a Black Pirate flyer, while Carter fights his way aboard another, killing all but one of the pirates and rescuing a captive Thern princess. Sound familiar?
It does sound familiar.
Yeah. From the pirate Zodar, Carter learns that the Black Pirates, called the Firstborn, also think of themselves as gods and accordingly prey upon the Therns, and additionally identifies the captive Thern as Praetor, a daughter of the High Hecador, High Priest of the Therns. When their flyer is recaptured by the Firstborn and taken to their underground realm of Omen, Carter is taken before Isis, the self-proclaimed goddess of Barsoom, who dictates the Therns through secret communications, which they mistake for divine revelation. Isis takes Fedor as a handmaiden for 1 Martian year, whereas Carter's in prison with Zodor as his slave as punishment for being defeated by Carter. Therefore, thereafter, Carter treats him with honor and thus gains his friendship. In prison, they encounter a young man later identified as Carter's son, Catharus, with whom Carter is taken to a series of games where in the previous years handmaidens are killed and later eaten by Isis and her nobles. Carter leads a revolt of the prisoners, killing many of the Firstborn, and upon the suppression of their revolt, he and Catharus escape via tunnels and give themselves to guards unacquainted with the revolt to be returned to their prison. Upon hearing of the revolt, Zodar rejects Isis's divinity and joins the others in escape. Upon later abandoning their aircraft, they encounter Thuvia, who describes the capture of Tarkus by the Green Warriors of the Warhoon, a clan rival to his own. Carter goes to rescue Tars Tarkus, but is discovered by his enemies. After a chase, Thuvia is sent on alone, mounted, while the men attempt a stand against the Warhoons. They are rescued by the Helletic Navy, but do not find Thuvia. Commanding one of the warships is Carter's friend, Kantos Kam, but the fleet is commanded by Zat Eris, a judge/chieftain of the hostile client state of Zodanga, and Carter is suspecting of returning from the Valley of Dor, which is punishable by death. Tardis Mor is the Jeddak of Helium, and Mor is Tariq, the Jed of Hastor, grandfather and father, respectively, of Deja Thoris, and thus Carter's in-laws are absent from Helium and having led fleets in search of Catharus. Later, John Carter discovers that Deja might have taken the pilgrims to the Valley Dor to find him. Upon returning to Helium, Carter is charged with heresy from the Zodangans, but the people of Helium will not tolerate this. Zat Eris imprisons Carter after he refuses Zat Eris's freedom in exchange for Endor, saying Zat Eris is Jeddak of Helium and is imprisoned for 365 days until his son frees him. He then goes to rescue Deja with a fleet of 1,000 battleships, 10-man cruiser, a big fleet. Wow, 1,000,000-man army. That's insane. Oh, the fake god. Yeah. That this stuff seems like it would be really interesting and make a great TV show. I don't think you could fit all this into a film, though.
No, that's impossible. It really is.
Yeah, this is dense. There's a lot of stuff.
HBO, get on this.
Yeah, and then it ends on a cliffhanger. Okay. After they go to try and rescue her. Interesting. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting book series. I definitely think that there's an element of this definitely came out at the wrong time, and
just the wrong place, wrong time, really.
Yeah. But I think that we discussed it as a kind of a classic adaptation, and it's interesting. Maybe I would like to do this as a comparison with Tarzan at some point. Maybe we'll watch that sometime. Maybe next. We'll watch that, since Tarzan has met with a lot more success than John Carter has, even though they're by the same author. I think that a big part of it is the fact that it feels typical. If they had, and they did try to kind of take some of the elements of the second book and put it into the first book. Into the first movie, with the Therns being the main antagonists of this one, which is a good idea and I think that it works decently well. It's just that unfortunately the just came out wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah.
So I think that we will have to conclude it there. We will see you guys later. All right. We'll see you later.
Everybody appreciates my totally useful commentary on this whole stream.